Monsters, Winona Ryder finds herself embroiled in a murderous web when she abandons the titular Queen Bees for Christian Slater's Jason Dean, a teen rebel name if ever there was one.
Now!
Writer Daniel Waters and director Michael Lehman wanted to play with teen cliches and explore their darker sides. Because in the coming-of-age genre, growing up isn't always pretty in pink.
You got some on you.
Nice.
What?
I just got the curse.
Coming-of-age themes have long been a core feature of horror movies, many of which deal with the awkward changes of adolescence expressed through monstrous metaphor.
Kill yourself to be different.
In horror cinema, a young girl's passage to womanhood is often associated with the birth of a supernatural talent, such as telekinesis in Carrie, witchcraft in The Craft, or werewolf transformation in Ginger Snaps.
Let's get out of here.
My favourite film of 2017 was Raw, a French-Belgian horror fantasy from writer-director Julia Ducournau, which used the taboo theme of cannibalism to portray its central character's transformation from innocent youth to fully-fledged adult. Garance Marillier stars as Justine, a vegetarian student who arrives at veterinary college where she's showered in blood, part of an initiation ceremony that knowingly evokes the climax from Carrie. Like Carrie, Raw's virginal Justine is isolated from her peers, struggling with the enforced debauchery that finds students crawling like dogs, drinking like fish, and mating like rabbits.
Non, mais tu vas pas commencer l'année en abandon là, tu t'affiches.
But once she's tasted forbidden flesh, Justine cannot go back to her former innocence. The cannibalistic gore would seem to place the movie firmly in the horror genre, but Ducournau calls Raw a portrait of the alienation that most girls feel during their teenage years, a rites of passage drama about sisterly rivalry, family legacy, and peer pressure, classic coming-of-age themes, all dressed up in the clothing of cutting-edge horror. But amid the horrors and traumas of adolescence, there's still much to enjoy and celebrate. Think of the makeover scenes that are a staple of so many teen movies. From The Breakfast Club, to Clueless, to This Is England, coming-of-age movies are about kids trying to find out who they are, trying different identities on for size, and a makeover scene is the perfect way to do that.
Honestly, mate, you look sterling.
So am I in the gang now?
Well, not yet. Get your shirt on. Let's see your Ben Sherman, then.
The moment is half Cinderella, half Superman, when the glasses are whipped off and the character is reborn.
Oh, yeah. Oh, that's a good fit, that. That's a good fit.
Turn round, let's have a look at you.
Amazing.
Oh,
Look at that. What a transformation.
Yeah. He looks so cute.
Brilliant. Really good.
Few of these films would have found their audience if they hadn't managed to capture the joy of being young. But one emotion can dominate adolescence, the most bittersweet rite of passage of all. Coming-of-age movies can be light and silly or dark and moving. There's one theme that has shades of all those moods: first love.
Giordano and I enjoyed a glorious, atavistic fortnight of lovemaking, humiliating teachers and bullying the weak. I've already turned these moments into the Super 8 footage of memory.
One of the reasons I love Jeremy is that it seems to me to perfectly capture the bewildering experience of falling in love for the first time. And I still consider Susan, the heroine of Jeremy, to be my first girlfriend, despite the fact that I've never met her because she's a fictional character. Look at this sequence in which the gawky Jeremy attempts to phone Susan for the first time.
Oh, what did you do today?
I woke up to have some orange juice. Jeremy, it's only 9 o'clock.
Now compare that with this sequence from Sophie.
You need some new trousers. These baggy ones are awful. I'll talk to Mum about it. Blue ones, Italian. If you're going to start falling in love, you'll have to start taking care of yourself.
Coming-of-age movies allow filmmakers to approach love quite differently to the rom-com genre. These aren't glossy relationships full of sparkling repartee. First Love is full of awkwardness and feeling that your world has been turned on its head.
We are clinging to the surface of this planet while it spins through space at 1,000 miles an hour, held only by the mystery force called gravity.
Wow.
A lot of people panic when you tell them that and they just fall off.
But these movies are also a chance for filmmakers to turn tradition and stereotypes upside down. Taking a lead from Romeo and Juliet, the forbidden nature of a love affair, whether for reasons of gender, culture or race, may act as the dramatic motor of the story. Recently, Call Me By Your Name became an awards-garlanded hit, dealing with the once taboo subject of a relationship between a young man and his older male paramour, riffing on themes from The Graduate, but inflected with the same sensuality which infused Blue Is the Warmest Colour, the story of a relationship between a teenage girl and an older woman. And then there are the coming-of-age movies which completely blur gender lines. Films like Makoto Shinkai's Your Name, in which the male and female protagonists swap their bodies and sexes. A theme previously explored in films like the 1982 Japanese hit Tenkosei, or more recently, the Scandinavian oddity Girls Lost. Whatever the gender, most coming-of-age stories tap into that endless love idea that you'll never love anyone as much. As we've seen, coming-of-age movies show characters on a journey between childhood and adulthood. So something has to happen that changes everything. It's the moment which says we have to grow up, and it's the big moment to which these movies are so often heading. The Kestrel, representing the freedom of youth, killed by an overbearing brother in Kes.
Look what he's doing, Mum. Look at it. You're right.
That was a rotten trick anyway, weren't it?
Well, a rotten trick what it did to me, wasn't it? You don't need to take it out to a bird. You could have took it out to me.
Sometimes that lesson is just a disillusionment with a hero. Think of Phil Daniels discovering that supermod Sting is actually a cringing hotel bellboy in Quadrophenia.
Button down, bellboy. Carry this baggage out, bellboy. Bellboy!
Or the moment you finally stand up to the dominant adult in your life.
Sandy.
Think of Maggie Smith in the prime of Miss Jean Brodie, a charismatic teacher, yes, but one against whom her most fervent disciple Sandy must ultimately rebel.
It was you who betrayed me.
I didn't betray you. I simply put a stop to you.
Oh. I see.
No, you don't see. You don't see that you're not good for people.
In what way? In what way, Sandy, was I not good for you?
You are dangerous and unwholesome, and children should not be exposed to you.
Always remember, in the end, coming of age is about leaving school, not standing on desks and sulking.
There he is! I see him! Look! Look, over there! I see him! I see him!
These big moments of change usually come later in the film. Think of Stand By Me, where the children's discovery of the dead body happens in the third act. But director John Singleton cleverly references Stand By Me in an early scene in Boys in the Hood to show that one child's dramatic loss of innocence can be another's everyday life. Look at these scenes. Both show a group of young friends on the hunt for a dead body. The train track, the wandering friends, even the body itself echo each other. An older gang of teenagers appear in both to confront the kids. In Stand By Me, which is based on the Stephen King story The Body, this scene is the moment to which the boy's journey has been leading. But in Boys in the Hood, this scene happens in the first act of the film. With this nod to Stand By Me, Singleton establishes that in this world, his young protagonists are always just a step away from violence and death.
Y'all want to see a dead body?
But even in the gentlest of scenes, there's something about the end of childhood that makes for some of the most emotionally resonant moments in cinema. How many adults watching the end of Toy Story 3 with their children could maintain a dry eye as Andy passes his beloved Woody and Buzz on to the next generation?
I have some toys here.
Ooh, you hear that, Bonnie?
It's a remarkably moving scene because we've all been through the moment when we quite literally put away childish things.
Someone told me you're really good with toys.
It's also powerful because this is the end of the third film in the series, and so many of the audience have either grown up or grown older alongside Andy. So, in a way, watching the trilogy come to an end is itself a rite of passage for all of us.
This is Jessie, the roughest, toughest cowgirl in the whole West. She loves critters. Which
raises the question, what the hell are they going to do in the forthcoming Part 4? As we've seen, the best coming-of-age movies vividly capture that moment we've all been through on the cusp of adult life. And if you can't stay 17 forever, what happens next? Remember the gang? In movies like American Graffiti, Stand By Me or Boys in the Hood, a group of buddies come to represent the different paths our hero could take. These three movies end by telling us what subsequently became of the different characters, and they suggest what might have happened to the hero under different circumstances.
I'll see you. Not if I see you first.
One brother left, man.
Chris did get out. He enrolled in the college courses with me, and although it was hard, he gutted it out like he always did. He went on to college and eventually became a lawyer. Last week, he entered a fast food restaurant. Just ahead of him, two men got into an argument. One of them pulled a knife. Chris, who had always made the best piece, tried to break it up. He was stabbed in the throat. He died almost instantly.
These postscripts can be both poignant and remarkably stark. Yet it's in the very nature of the genre that life still lies ahead for most of these characters, and we leave them facing an uncertain future, but hopefully just that little bit wiser. It's no coincidence that so many coming-of-age films, from The 400 Blows to This Is England to Moonlight, end in the same way, with their heroes staring out towards a distant horizon, then turning to look at the camera to connect with us. That couldn't be hacked until they make a quick getaway. But getting away with it was only half the job. Keeping it together will be something else. In this series, I'm looking at some of cinema's most enduring genres, from the rom-com to the horror movie. I'll be exploring the conventions which underwrite the movies we love the most and examining the techniques filmmakers use to keep us coming back for more. And tonight, I'm going to show you how to pull off the perfect heist movie. Working on the law of averages, most of you watching this program will be law-abiding citizens, mostly. But the chances are that many of you will also have secretly dreamed of getting one over on the system. Whether it's discreetly fiddling your tax returns or audaciously scamming a bank for millions, everyone has daydreamed about the possibility of somehow outwitting the corporate bigwigs. As Louis Colhern's Alonzo Emmerich points out in The Asphalt Jungle,
crime is only a left-handed form of human endeavor.
So it's no surprise that crime stories strike a chord, returning time and again to a series of common themes and recurrent traits that are brilliantly encapsulated in John Huston's 1950 classic. The Asphalt Jungle is one of the first films to establish the basic story elements that will go on to form the conventions of the genre.
Armed suspect, tall man, Caucasian, wearing a dark suit and soft hands.
It's a classic American film noir with stark, angular photography and starker dialogue. It's the tale of big-hearted hooligan Dix Handley, played by Sterling Hayden.
Hello. Yeah.
Who gets wrapped up in a caper planned by Sam Jaffe's criminal mastermind, Doc Erwin Riedenschneider.
Make your way up the back stairs and jump the alarm system. That'll take another 3 minutes. At exactly 11:54, Dix and I will come to the back door. You open it to us.
This, by the way, is an early appearance of a now commonplace obstacle, the invisible alarm system.
Here's the electric eye.
The raid needs the specialist skills of a hand-picked bunch of crooks.
Here goes.
The plan to rob a jeweller's shop will net at least $500,000 in diamonds, but the robbery doesn't quite go according to plan. One of the gang members gets shot during the getaway, and gradually everything starts to fall apart. Sounds familiar? Well, it should do. It's the basic plot of a heist movie. Let's look at the elements that make up that plot in a little more detail. In the first 4 scenes of the first act, we meet 3 key characters: Sterling Hayden's hooligan, James Whitmore's getaway driver, and Sam Jaffe's criminal mastermind. Lewis Colhern's criminal financier enters midway through. And the first act ends with a planning sequence featuring the whole gang. The second act is taken up with a dramatic sequence describing every intricate detail of the raid that is also a nail-biting race against time. Finally, the third act follows the demise of the gang as, one by one, they're either killed or arrested. Like every good genre structure, this basic plot has proved remarkably adaptable to different settings, characters, and concerns. Some filmmakers have particularly enjoyed using the heist narrative as a springboard to explore the moral ambiguities of crime and to play with our sympathies. With that in mind, take a look at this opening scene from the Hughes brothers' Dead Presidents. In my opinion, one of the best and most overlooked American movies of the 90s. It opens with a black screen and the sound of a gun being cocked. As the score starts to pulse, we see a slow-mo image of a face painted white like a skull scanning the barrel of a gun. The score picks up the pace, and we fade to a montage of burning banknotes, the dead presidents engulfed in flames. Everything about the scene tells us that these are dangerous people hungry for money. But then, the film flashes back several years to the Northeast Bronx of 1968 to show us how these people got here.
Man, what's taking you so long? It's cold as a motherfucker.
I had to get the last stop. Quiet, punk.
Shut
Hurry your ass up, man. Freezing my fucking nuts out here.
Mush, motherfucker, mush!
The rest of the movie follows the progress of Lorenz Tate's Anthony Curtis, a victim of circumstances beyond his control.
Listen here. Keep that motor running. I'll just be a minute here.
Dead President shows us how this utterly sympathetic character could cross the line that would put him on the wrong side of the law. And one of the ways it tells that story is through a brilliant juxtaposition of images which juggles time frames to extraordinarily dramatic effect. Look at this edit, which for my money is one of the most powerful jump cuts of modern cinema. As Anthony runs through the Bronx backyards of his youth, the Hughes brothers cut to the battlefields of Vietnam, to which tens of thousands of young African Americans were drafted. Brutalized by war, Anthony returns home to find his service is sorely undervalued, and he's drawn into crime. You might not immediately think of Dead Presidents as primarily a heist movie, but at the heart of its narrative is a heist, the event with which the film opens and to which it returns. Many of the conventions we saw in the Asphalt Jungle also feature here. Anthony recruits a gang, and we watch them planning their bank job.
I want you to position yourself approximately 10.
But by the time we see the robbery play out in full, we know this is as much a story about the African American experience as it is about a heist. What's intriguing is the way that the Hughes brothers, who are extremely cine-literate filmmakers, take that familiar mainstream motif and then twist it to their own personal ends. Playing with our genre expectations, putting new riffs on an old tune. Dead Presidents is an example of the harder edge of the heist movie. But there's also a more playful side, one that enables us to indulge our illicit law-breaking fantasies for fun. So let's explore those classic building blocks of the heist in more detail, beginning with a particular character type who's come to embody our secret criminal aspirations. Unless you happen to be a banker.
So I was right. I took a rash of shit for 2 years, but I was right. And everyone was wrong. And yeah, I got a bonus check for it. Sue me. You know?
Earlier in this program, we saw the beginning of Dead Presidents, with the young anti-heroes preparing to pull a deadly heist. Let's finish with the end of that film, with Larenz Tate's Anthony, who has served and suffered in Vietnam, facing so-called justice and refusing to go quietly.
Anthony Curtis, for your participation in this crime, a crime that took the lives of several innocent people, I do hereby sentence you to the custody of the Attorney General of the United States for a period of 15 years to life.
Oh, my God.
These proceedings are concluded. This court is adjourned.